Hello and welcome to another episode of the Bubbs on Sports podcast. Today is Monday, November 21st. Hope everybody's having a good day so far. Had a good rest of their day yesterday. Hopefully, everybody had a good weekend. We're coming off another big weekend in the world of sports as we had a lot going on Saturday and obviously the entire NFL going on yesterday. You had a ton of games on, and we'll wrap up tonight in Mexico with the Niners and the Cardinals. So looking forward to that matchup. Hopefully a good game there. I think I know who's going to win that game. I think we all kind of do, but still hoping for hopefully a good game and hopefully a close matchup there. For New York football this weekend, it was rough. For the first time in a while, both the Jets and the Giants lose, and they both lost in kind of, I guess you can kind of say, just frustrating fashion where the Giants get caught in a trap game against Detroit. They get caught looking ahead to Dallas, who smokes the Minnesota Vikings on the road 40-3. And the New York Jets, well, their quarterback didn't show up. And that's the bottom line. That's really all I could say. Zach Wilson was non-existent, and he's been non-existent for a while this year. And we'll get into it, obviously, but embarrassing performance on the Jets. Really just putrid. I mean, it was awful. It was awful. And to lose it the way they did, to go down with obviously the game-winning punt return by the Patriots was just awful. It's Jets fall to 6-4, and today we sit here and we find ourselves, we're outside looking in on the playoff picture now. Now the season's not over. You still got 7 games to go, but things need to change if the New York Jets want to go places this year, and if they do want to win this year, and if they want to make a run and maybe make a deep run in the postseason. Things need to change, and specifically they need to change at the quarterback spot. So we'll get into it. Nets were able to get a nice win last night. Kentucky gets crushed against Gonzaga. They're really struggling. This Kentucky team looks lost right now, and that's the bottom line. They don't look good. Oscar Tshiebwe was really the only one who did anything last night, and let's be honest here, he was struggling too a little bit early on, but he was playing well enough to at least keep us somewhere within range of the game, and just not good enough. And what's tough about this is your losses have come against Michigan State and Gonzaga, and you have beaten Howard, that school, DeQuince, I think it is, and you've beaten South Carolina State. So Kentucky has lost the 2 toughest games on their schedule, and they've won the 3 easiest games. So what does that tell you? Well, this team right now isn't ready for the big-time matchups and isn't ready to truly compete with some of the best in the nation. Now, could that turn around? Hopefully. Or is this just the Kentucky team we are going to watch this entire year? We'll see. So they'll be back at it this week, I believe, Wednesday, as they'll play, I believe, North Florida, which will probably be another win, but that's a bad team. So they got to find a way to beat some of these marquee teams if they want to, go deep, and if they want to, climb up the rankings, in which they fell from 4 to 15 this week after the 2 losses to Michigan State and Gonzaga. All right, so topics for today, you know the drill. It's a recap Monday. We'll get to the Jets. We'll get to the Giants. We'll get to the rest of the NFL. We'll get to fantasy football as well and finish things off with my game pick tonight, as it's the Niners-Cardinals in Mexico. Hopefully a good matchup there. So with all that being said, this is the Bubbs on Sports podcast, and let's get right into it. So yesterday was Week 11 in the NFL. Week 11 has come and gone. Tonight we'll wrap it up with the Cardinals-Niners, as I mentioned, in Mexico. Yesterday, with all the games that went on, I went 6-7 on my game picks. 0-1, obviously going into yesterday. So yesterday, through the 11 games that were on, I went 5-6, which was ugly, but it is what it is. And today, or went 6-6 rather yesterday, I believe, right? It was 6-6 yesterday. So it was ugly. It wasn't great. Today, hopefully, get tonight's pick correct, hopefully, and get to 500 for the week. So with my 6-7 overall record this week, I now move overall on the season to 96-67. So my goal going into is crack 100 this week. That is not the case. I will have to wait another week to get that. Right now I am 29 games above 500, and with a win tonight, I will become 30 games above 500, and I will only be 3 games away from getting 100 picks correct on the year, which would happen then in Week 12 most likely, and very possibly could happen on Thanksgiving, as there's plenty of games on there. So not a great week for my picks, 6-7. Tonight, if I get that correct, it would be 7-7, back-to-back 500 weeks. Not great, but it's better than having a 4-12 week or a 3-10 week or a 5-8 week. it's better than having a really bad week, which I had a 5-11 week earlier in the year, which really hurt. So got to get back to winning 9-10 games a week, picking 9-10 games correct a week if I want to get to, the mid to late, mid to deep one, mid to, further down the 170s, 180s, get to areas like that. Got to start winning. Got to start picking some more games correct. So one of the games I picked wrong was the New York Jets. And yesterday was embarrassment. I mean, I don't even know where to start. I'll start with this. I'll start with a positive, I guess. On what was relative, what was mainly a negative game, and today has been a negative day in terms of talk around the New York Jets. I will start with a positive. The defense was lights out. And I want to get this out of the way now because I don't want to not make mention of it, because a lot of this is going to be about Zach Wilson. A lot of this is going to be about what do the Jets do at the quarterback spot with 7 games to go in the season, and specifically what do they do this week with the Chicago Bears coming to town after a loss, and their defense is terrible after a loss to the Atlanta Falcons. So the defense was phenomenal yesterday. I mean, the defense let up 3 points. Obviously, sacked Mac Jones 6 times. JFM was great. Secondary was great. Sauce Gardner had that big pass breakup early on. I mean, sacking the quarterback, 3rd down and 1, getting run stuffs. There was a couple missed tackles, but the thing I could say about this is there was a couple missed tackles, no doubt about it. There was definitely plays where the Jets need to make, and there's tackles that they need to, obviously make. No doubt about that. But, they were able to overcome those, whether it was with a sack, whether it was Nick Folk missing his 2 field goals, whatever it was, they were able to overcome the minimal mistakes that they made, and they held the Patriots to 3 points. Now, obviously, the game got crushed by that 84-yard punt return, which I was just sitting there kind of just in silence. I didn't even know how to react watching that. Special teams have been so good all year long, and to have that happen was just terrible. I know people could say, oh, there was a block in the back, all that stuff. Look, even if there was a block in the back, they were still going to be in field goal range. So it doesn't even matter that there really was. Nick Folk probably would have made a chip shot. I don't think he's that bad. I don't think he would have went 3 misses on the day. So it is what it is. It's terrible. It's awful. It's a terrible loss. To let up that punt return sucks, no doubt about it. And to have your defense play lights out for the entire game and then go out there and let up that punt return at the end is awful for a unit, again, that has been so good this year in the special teams, in the special teams unit has been so good this season. So the defense was phenomenal. Your sacks came from Quincy Williams, Michael Clemens had a sack, Carl Lawson had a sack, JFM had a sack, and Bryce Huff had a sack. So 6 sacks from 6 different players. Great day all around, getting pressure on Mac Jones. And I said that, on my preview that I did on In the Trench with Gang Green, I said that too. I said, you got to get pressure on Mac Jones, and they did that. And in 2 games this year against New England, the Jets have gotten pressure on Mac Jones, and they've gotten 12 sacks in 2 games, 6 in the first meeting, and 6 again yesterday. So phenomenal job of the defense. I'll get that out of the way first. Now, that was the only positive. In a mostly negative game, in a negative-dominated game, that was the only positive, because even the special teams wasn't a positive either. Zach Wilson yesterday was awful, and I'll start with the quarterback. I don't even have to go through the rest of the offense. Running game was terrible. Okay, they averaged 2.6 yards a carry. They had 59 yards on 23 rushes. To put that in perspective, they ran 45 plays. They had 23 runs and 22 passes. That's terrible. That just can't happen. They ran 45 plays on offense. It was a lot of 3 and outs. There was no moving the ball. Zach Wilson threw for 77 yards. The Jets punted 10 times. Zach Wilson had 9 completions. So that was awful as well. He had 77 yards. He averaged 3.5 yards a throw. And looking back at the film today, while rewatching some of the plays, seeing the replays, it's even worse when you look back on it and you see the open receivers that Zach Wilson missed, and you see some of the plays where it's like Zach Wilson just throwing the ball in no man's land. And you watch that game yesterday, right? And it's bad. It's awful. But when you look back at it and you see all the mistakes that he made, it's even worse. And you start to question now, like, does he even know where he is? Like, does he even know where he is? I mean, he looked lost yesterday, and in seeing some of the throws that he made, watching it back again, like, he was lost. I mean, the one throw to Conklin, that Devin McCourty dropped, which you don't see that very often. A very good safety in the league, a guy that's been around for a while, a proven veteran, drops that wide open interception. 9 times out of 10, that's caught. People could say, oh, Zach Wilson didn't turn the ball over. There was 3 plays that he made yesterday that should have been intercepted. 3 plays. At least 2 were guaranteed. There was that one play where you can make the argument there was 4. That one play on Robinson could have been picked, and that one play on Mims. If Mims didn't, that 34-yard play to Mims, which was the biggest play of the game, that was not a good throw by Zach Wilson. He underthrew that ball. That was a terrible, terrible throw. Denzel Mims just did a good job coming back to the ball, and the corner overran the route. So that's just, I don't want to call it luck, but that's your receiver coming back to the ball. If Mims didn't come back to the ball, that's probably an interception. Embarrassing. And you start to wonder now, does he even know the playbook? Where is he throwing the ball to? In the middle of nowhere. And then there's open receivers, and this is what tells me. This tells me all he's worried about is throwing the ball 30, 40 yards downfield. Elijah Moore running right in front of him. And we've seen this so many times this year. Elijah Moore running right in front of him, doesn't see him. Whether, I forget what happened on the play. There was a couple times. Wide open across the middle, and Zach Wilson doesn't see him. You gotta move your eyes, man. You can't be looking 35, 40 yards downfield every play. It's just not gonna work. You can't play hero ball. You just can't do it. Especially against a defense in New England that's gonna cause pressure, and you're gonna need to get short, quick throws, short, quick passes, because they're gonna pressure you. And you saw that yesterday. He's terrible in the pocket. He's awful in the pocket. He can't do anything in the pocket. It's terrible. I understand that, he's good and he's supposed to be good, rolling out and stuff. But you can't tell me you can't at least just stand up in the pocket, step up, and make a throw, make a competent NFL throw. Zach Wilson right now yesterday, he looked like the worst quarterback in football. He did. He looked like the worst quarterback in football. And you can't deny that if you watch that game. And look, call me crazy, say I'm being too harsh. That might have been the worst quarterback performance I've ever watched since Luke Falk in the couple games that he played back in 2019 when Sam Darnold came down with mono and then Trevor Siemian broke his leg in the Browns game. That might be the worst I've ever seen a quarterback, not just Jet quarterback, but a quarterback in general play since Luke Falk. And that's saying something. What Zach Wilson did yesterday. Brutal. And then he had that one play to Berrios. And that's another thing, too. Look, again, it's one thing if it's 30 yards downfield and he missed the throw. Okay. Berrios is wide open. Wide open. Right? Wide open. Overthrows him. And then Mims again. Wide open. Screenplay. Check down. Wide open. Mims, one of the tallest guys on the team, finds a way to overthrow him. And he goes into his press conference, and get this. It was the wind. Mac Jones didn't have any issue. And then did you let your defense down? No. So scoring 3 points, that's okay, Zach. That's okay. Scoring 3 points. That's all right. And throwing for 77 yards and 9 completions and punting 10 times. There was more punts yesterday than the Jets had completions. The Jets didn't have a first down in the second half until midway through the fourth quarter. We went from going into, I believe it was midway through the fourth quarter. The last time we got a first down prior to that was 1 minute and 55 seconds left in the half. Putrid offense. Oh, God, it was disgusting. For us Jet fans to have to sit through that yesterday, that was awful. And look, all year long, and I've always been this way. Maybe not, maybe I am a little impatient. Call me impatient. Say whatever you want. Maybe I'm if you think I'm giving up on, look, the bottom line is this. Okay, winning, when a team is winning, it covers up so much. It covers up everything. I'll tell you this. If the Jets were 3-5, and that's when Elijah Moore requested a trade, we would have been ripping them. It was still a big story, but it got covered up a little bit because the Jets were winning. And then they went on the road that week in Denver. They won without him, and it's all right, we're winning, nobody cares. But if it was like last year where let's just say at that time we were like, I don't know, 1-4, 2-5, and he requested a trade, we'd all be ripping him. And it would be a big story. The only reason why it didn't become a huge story is because we were winning, right? That's great. Looking back at it yesterday, and I took some time last night to look at, the numbers and look at the box scores. Looking back this season, and you could say whatever you want. Zach Wilson, 5-2 as a starter. Great, good for him. 90% that's been because of the run game and defense. About 2% of it's been because of him. Okay, you can make the argument that out of all of Zach Wilson's games this year, he has played 2 good games. Miami and Buffalo. And he's played 5 bad games. He was not good against Green Bay. He wasn't great there. Big reason why is because Breece Hall rushed for over 100 yards and he dominated, and the defense had that block punt and they dominated Aaron Rodgers. He wasn't good against Denver. The reason why we won is because we stopped Denver. We did everything we completely dominated them offset on defense, and then you had Breece Hall's 60-yard touchdown. So that was the 2 wins there. And then you lost to the Patriots. He played bad. You lost to the Patriots again. He played bad. Played bad in both New England games. Did not play very well against Green Bay. Did not play very well against Denver. Now, the only game that he didn't play well in outside of 1 quarter was that Pittsburgh game, where he played poor for 3 quarters of football, and then in the 4th quarter, he stepped up in a big way. So, to be honest with you, he's played 4 bad. Let's put it this way, right? 4 games, 4 quarters. That's like 16 quarters. He's played about, out of all of the 7 times 4, what is that? 20 out of the 28 quarters of football that he has played this year. 27 of them have been below average, and 1 of them was good. Well, actually, technically what? Because I'll take that back. Out of the 28 quarters of football he's played, I guess what, like 20 of them have been bad because he was good against Buffalo, that's 4, and he was good against, so out of like the 28 quarters of football he's played, 19 have been bad. 19 have been bad. So that's not a great ratio. And he's had 2 good games, 5 bad games, and 1 good quarter against Pittsburgh, which I'm not taking that away from him. That was a big play. That was a big quarter by him. 4th quarter, final drive, all that great stuff. That was phenomenal. You could probably make the argument that was the best drive the Jets have had under Zach Wilson. Actually, maybe not. I mean, he had a couple good drives in that Miami game. Maybe take that back. That was one of the better drives that we've had, though, this year under Zach Wilson. The stats don't lie, people. They don't lie. And look, I've always said this. I try to be as balanced as I can. When you look at the numbers and when you see the eye test. The eye test yesterday was awful. You look at the numbers, they're even worse. Okay? Numbers don't lie. They just don't lie. They're a reflection off of kind of what you're doing. And I understand he's 5-2. That's great. Good. When you really look at it, how many games have Zach Wilson played this year where he was the reason they won? Really? None. There's been 0 games this year where he's been the reason they've won. Maybe Buffalo. But, I mean, you can make the argument it was the run game and the defense there too. Miami, maybe Pittsburgh, okay. Maybe Pittsburgh. Miami, he played well, but the reason they run is because they ran it down Miami's gut, and they just kept running, and Miami had no answer. So that really wasn't because of him. The reason why he played well, though, is because he took what the defense was getting, in the throws that he needed to make, he made them, right? But other than that, it was the run game. Pittsburgh maybe is the only game. And out of that game, he played 1 good quarter. That might be it. So, Zach Wilson's, if you think about it, has, I don't know. I mean, you call me crazy, but maybe he's contributed in a big way to 1 win out of the 7 that he's played. So, numbers don't lie. Joe Flacco is still leading the team in touchdown passes. That's sad. Real sad. Really sad. He's thrown, 5 touchdowns? Threw 5 touchdowns to 3 games. Zach Wilson has thrown 4 touchdowns in 7 games. So, and I understand touchdowns isn't everything, right? I get it. There's some, Jimmy Garoppolo, he's not going to throw 40 touchdowns a year. I understand. There are some quarterbacks out there that aren't going to do it. I get that. But 4 touchdowns in 7 games, And I mean, again, people, and to the people out there that say, oh, it's only been, 21 games into his career. He's still young. He's still growing, or 20 games into his NFL career. He's still young, still growing, all that stuff. To all those people, enough with that. We said the same thing about Sam Darnold. Oh, he's young in his career. He's young. He's learning. Give him time. And look what happened. I'm not saying that, he's a bust just yet. But, I mean, man, oh, man, I'm not saying that. But, I mean, there's a point where it's like, he's not making progress. He's not making progress. That's the bottom line. At the end of the day, we said this at the beginning of the year. We want to come out of this season knowing the head coach and knowing the quarterback. Well, we got our answer at head coach. I do believe Saleh's the guy. And we got our answer at GM, although I don't think that was really in question. But we got our answer at GM. We don't have our answer at quarterback. So, because right now, Zach has shown you nothing. And you could say, oh, it's progress. He's still progressing. Fine. So, okay, fine. So the people that are saying that, I got a question for you then. So when are we supposed to see a leap? If these final 7 games, let's just say his stat line, these final 7 games are 2 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and a completion percentage of 58. Okay, let's just say that's the case, okay? Or completion percentage of 56, he throws 2 touchdowns and 8 picks in his final 7 games here. Are you bringing him back for a third year? Are you saying, okay, now here comes the third-year jump? I mean, it's scary to say, but he's kind of going like this right now. I could tell you this. He didn't look this bad last year. And I don't want to hear either it's the defenses. We got to stop making excuses for him. We got to stop it. It's a good defense. So what? Step up and be better. I mean, come on now. So, and if I'm the Jets, look, 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago when they first lost to New England, I was not on the train of benching Zach Wilson. I wasn't. I said, give him another week. But I did say if he struggles against Buffalo, bench him. He played well against Buffalo. And then you go into the bye week. And again, too, this is coming out of a bye week. Coming out of a bye week in which you had an entire 2 weeks to prepare for an opponent that you just played and you struggled against them. And to come out and actually be worse than you were the first time is just mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. So, if I'm the Jets and if I'm Robert Saleh, the locker room's losing trust in him. The comments yesterday that he made were embarrassing. He's clearly not handling the media well. He's getting ripped into pieces today, and rightfully so. Welcome to New York. Welcome to New York. That's what I got to say. People are crushing him today. He's getting crushed because he's playing like garbage. So, you got to bench him. You got to bench him. If I'm the New York Jets, if I was Robert Saleh, Mike White's under center next week at the first snap of the game. Mike White's under center. I was talking to somebody about this today, too. The Jets never truly gave Mike White a fair chance. We never did. We really didn't. Because I'll tell you why. Out of the 4 games that he played, 2 of them he legitimately played. He came in that New England game after Zach got hurt, and in that Indy game, he got hurt. The other 2 games, he dominated against Cincinnati. He threw 4 picks against Buffalo, which wasn't good. But, I mean, again, it's like he played 4 games. Like, I'm not saying he's going to be the greatest quarterback of all time, but at least give him a chance. He showed some flashes last year. And again, people are like, oh, Mike White's terrible. So he's going to be worse than this? That's another thing, too. Like, you can't get much worse than what Zach Wilson is doing right now. Zach Wilson is playing like garbage. Like, Mike White. Mike White, I mean, what's the worst case? Mike White's average? He can't be much worse than this. I could guarantee you that. Mike White probably would have went out there this weekend, but Mike White would have played better. I mean, there's not many quarterbacks. Like, this is bad. So to the people out there, they're saying, Mike White's terrible, don't play him. Okay, so he's this bad then? Like, he's gonna throw 9 completions? He's gonna turn the ball over a ton? Like, he's this bad? His completion percentage is gonna be 50%? 55%? Like, this bad? We're not asking, we're not asking a ton. We're not asking a ton out of Mike White. You know? We're asking him to be what? And that's another thing that's frustrating too. So many frustrating parts of this. We'll get to the Giants in a second. Mike, what makes this more frustrating than like the Sam Darnold, experience where he was obviously struggling. What makes this more frustrating is that this team can win now. We have talent around the quarterback. I understand we lost Breece Hall. I understand we lost AVT. 2 big hits to this offense, no doubt about it. But Michael Carter and James Robinson is still a capable running back duo, and we still have a solid offensive line. Now, they did struggle yesterday. I'm not denying that. But you hope with Nate Herbig that if he comes back, we can be, we can get back to where we are. And you hope that, Mitchell and them can maybe slowly start to file in as well. So it is getting a little healthier. We got an excellent receiving core. Our defense is, where would this team be right now without this defense? Where would we be? Where would we be? I'll tell you this, we'd be a 2-win team right now without this defense. We really would be. Maybe outside of 2 games where the offense, maybe outside of that Dolphins game where the offense put up 40, and then maybe outside of that Pittsburgh game where the offense balled out late, and then maybe that Browns game too, where, we win because the defense struggled that game. Outside of those 3 games, it's like all these other games, the defense has made a huge impact. That Packers game was big reason because of the defense. That Broncos game was outside of Breece Hall's 60-yard touchdown, which was huge. It was all defense. All right, the Bills game offense played well, but they also picked off Josh Allen, the league's best quarterback, twice. So where would this team be right now? It's not crazy to say this would be a 3-7 Jet team if we had a defense like we had last year. So credit to them. But again, Zach Wilson, no matter what. At the end of the day, Zach Wilson this week needs to decide something. Because his post-game conference two are terrible. And again, this is how the NFL is, right? You're going to lose the locker room if you don't take accountability. There's been quarterbacks where all Zach had to do yesterday, all he had to do, okay, Zach, do you feel like you let the defense down? Yeah, play like garbage day. I got to do better. We'll look back on, the game, and we'll get ready for Chicago, right? Instead of blaming the wind, Zach, why do you think, you couldn't, what was up with those missed throws? That's my bad. I got to do better than that. I'll work on it, this week. We get ready for Chicago. That's simple. Not, the wind. The wind was an issue. The wind was an issue. Really? Really? Mac Jones wasn't slinging it yesterday. He wasn't dominating. But it didn't look like the wind was affecting his throws. So if that's the case, then it must be windy every week. Because Zach Wilson, you've been missing those passes every week. Every week. It's been the short throws every week. Simple throws. Can't make them. That's concerning for an NFL quarterback. And again, Mike White, right? If I'm the Jets, like I said, I'd bench Zach Wilson now. I'd put in Mike White. Bench Wilson. And again, this isn't saying you give up on him. This isn't saying he never sees the field again. Bench him for a week or two, right? Let him just watch. Let him understand. Let him see, look, Zach, this is what you're supposed to do. Because, again, and this is another thing, too. I understand the offensive coordinator. I understand. Believe me, I got frustrated, too, yesterday with Michael LaFleur's play calling. There was a couple play calls there that remind me of Adam Gase. I'm very tired of the run on first down, run on second down, set up third down and long, and then it's like, it's a third down and long, and, you're screwed then. Yeah, believe me, we saw that a lot under Gase. We've seen it a couple times this year where it's run, third down and 9, let's pass it. That's terrible. It's not a recipe for success. We saw that a couple times yesterday. I'm not saying he's Adam Gase, but there was definitely, believe me, I question the play calling at times. But at the end of the day, too, we've seen this system can work. Josh Johnson last year against the Colts, after Mike White got hurt, dominated, right? Mike White against the Bengals, dominated. Joe Flacco, other than being the Statue of Liberty in the pocket where he can't move, he was okay. He was all right. He wasn't great, but, he was average. Zach Wilson right now looks like the least competent quarterback out there on the roster. He really does. It's the bottom line. So, I bench him. it's just I would bench him right now. That's what I would do. I wouldn't wait to the Bears game, and here's why. A lot of people say, "Oh, wait to the Bears game." I wouldn't wait because this, in a way, this Bears game, to me, is a must-win. Because if you lose this game, you're then 6-5. I don't know who the Bengals play this week, but they probably have a good chance of winning. I don't know who they play, to be fair. You're 6-5, and then you'd have 2 road games coming up against the Vikings and the Bills. So you're almost then you risk going into those 2 games 1 game above 500. Like everybody's saying, "Oh, take him out at halftime if he's struggling." So what if you're down 17-0 at halftime against the Chicago Bears? Or let's say you're down 7. No, I don't know. I think the defense will be good. Let's just say though. Let's say you're down 17-0. Oh, now let's take Zach out. That's too late. That's too late. Unless if Mike White leads you to a comeback in the second half, that's too late. Then you're at risk of falling 6-5, right? So I would bench him now. Start Mike White against Chicago. Let's see what he can do. And ride the hot hand. Look, if Mike White goes out there against Chicago, and I know the Jets aren't going to do this. I know they aren't. I don't think the Jets are ever going to bench Zach Wilson. The only way Mike White, I think, comes in is if there's an injury. That's it. That's the bottom line. But I don't think the Jets are going to bench Zach Wilson at all. I think they're going to let him play out these final 7 games. They're going to see what they got, which is ridiculous, but that's just seems to be the way they're doing it. I don't know. You're going to lose the locker room. That's all. You're going to lose the locker room. So if you're okay with that, you can go ahead and do that, Robert Saleh and Douglas. But if you're not, then I would bench him. So I don't know. We'll see. Bears are a winnable game, though. I mean, it's, again, we're not asking Mike White to be Tom Brady. We're not asking him to be Joe Montana. We're asking him to be an average quarterback. Same thing with Zach Wilson, but he's not doing that. So we'll see. But I would bring in Mike White this week. I'd name him the starter. Give Zach Wilson kind of a week to reset. And look, if Mike White goes out there and plays like garbage, well, then you go back to Zach Wilson. But it can't hurt, right? It can't hurt. It just can't. It's because I'm tired of. And to the people out there that say, "Oh, well, he played good against the Bills." Well, can he? Okay, great. He had 2 bad games squished in between one. Can he put together 3 consistently good games? Can he do that? Everybody's saying, "Oh, he's had a couple good games this year." Well, can we see 3 consistently good games? Can we see 3 games where maybe he throws like 4 touchdowns and has 1 pick in 3 straight games and the Jets win? Can we see that? Can we see him have a productive drive? Like, we haven't seen that. 20 games in, we haven't seen it. So, this is where we stand. Jets lose 10-3. Fall to 6-4 on the year. This team's got talent. This team's got pieces around the quarterback. It comes down to you got to have better quarterback play. That's the bottom line. So, we'll see how it all plays out. But, look, the Jets are still very much in the race. You win this week, you could be very well right back in it. But this week's a big game, no doubt about it. So, we'll see how it all plays out, and we'll see if Robert Saleh has the guts, and we'll see. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. All right, so Giants also lost, lose 31-18 to the Lions. I kind of had a feeling that this could very well happen. Obviously, trap game, which we kind of all saw coming. But it was a trap game, and it's a tough loss for the Giants. You fall 7-3 on the year. Daniel Jones didn't play great. You had a lot of injuries. But now a big game coming up against Dallas, where if you lose this game against Dallas, you're going to be 3rd place in the division, and then things might get a little interesting in the NFC. Now, the Giants still are very well in the NFC playoff picture. They're 7-3. But, what I'm saying is let's just say you lose this game to Dallas coming up, you're then 7-4, and you have a team like Washington then, would be knocking on your door on the outside, which would make those games big. So, this is definitely a tough loss for this game because, for a game that you lost the Lions. And the Lions are competitive. I'll tell you that. Lions are competitive. Lions are 4-6, and I'm not saying they're going to go make the playoffs, but they're competitive. And I mean, you look at their schedule the rest of the way, it's not easy. They do have some winnable games. Bills are going to be tough, no doubt about it. Jaguars are winnable. Vikings are going to be tough. Jets. Jets are a good team outside of the quarterback right now. Panthers, that's going to be tough. That's a very winnable game. That should be a win for the Jets, though. But Panthers, that's going to be a win. That's winnable. Bears, winnable. I mean, the Lions could finish the year all in all. Packers, too. I mean, week 18, who knows what's going on in Packers land. If they lose that game, or they win that game, it's not. You could talk yourself into this Lion team going 8-9, and they got 7 games left. I could talk myself into them going 3-4, actually 4-3. Losses to the Bills, Vikings, Jets, beating the Jaguars, Panthers, Bears, Packers. I could talk myself into that. I could. That'd be get them to 8-9. You get Jameson Williams back. This Lions team, I'll tell you this. If the Lions find a way to knock off Buffalo this week, if they somehow find a miracle way, you'd be 5-6. And then you beat Jacksonville, you would be 6-6. That would set up for a matchup against Minnesota, which would just be and then if you win that game, I mean, man, oh man. If they beat Buffalo this week, I'll tell you this. If the Lions beat Buffalo this week, I'll put a guarantee on it. They finish above 500 on the year. If they beat Buffalo this week, because they'll be 5-6. You're most likely beating Jacksonville, which would be 6-6. Vikings probably going to be a loss, 6-7. I'd probably say the Jets, they don't win, because I do think the Jets, would stop their offense. 6-8. But then you probably win 3. You probably beat the Panthers. You probably beat the Bears. 8-8, and set up that at least last week against Green Bay, which is winnable. You already beat them. Get the 9-8. Hey, watch out. Lions are coming. They're competitive. I'll tell you that. They're a competitive football team. They are they compete. They play for their coach, and definitely an interesting and kind of fun, tough, gritty team to watch. That's getting the job done. And the Giants also lost a couple key pieces. Adoree Jackson should be out, I believe, 6 to 8 weeks. And Wan'Dale Robinson, after having his best game of his career, will be, he's done for the year after tearing his ACL, which is obviously tough to see. So, anyway, as for, rest of the NFL, had some good games on. Chiefs with the late touchdown over the Chargers. Bengals win the shootout over Pittsburgh. Cowboys dominate Kirk Cousins and the Vikings. Dak has a big day. Cowboys win 40-3 there. Frustrated off of the Green Bay game. They dominate. Raiders get the win in overtime over the Packers. The battle of two bad head coaches. I guess the least bad head coach wins in Josh McDaniels. Bills over the Browns. Didn't look good early for the Buffalo Bills, but they found a way to win. They'll be back in Detroit in about 3 days from now for a Thanksgiving matchup against the Lions. Ravens over the Panthers. As I mentioned, Falcons over the Bears, despite another kind of just great effort by Justin Fields. Had 153 passing yards, 85 rushing yards, including a rushing and passing touchdown. He's doing everything he can. The Bears are just losing. Got to build a little bit more around him. Eagles beat the Colts. I'll tell you what, Colts made this thing interesting. They were winning there 13-3, and the Eagles with a 14-point fourth quarter, go on top there. So the Colts, tough loss for them. But I'll tell you this, it's a tough loss for the Colts, but they were competitive. And the Colts now get a Steelers game coming up, which is big. Which is a big game. You win that, you're 5-6-1. Then you go to Dallas, which is gonna be tough. Week 14, you have a bye. You come out against Minnesota, and then Chargers, and then Giants, Texans to end the year. So you're gonna learn a lot about this Colts team under Jeff Saturday, because you've got probably 3 winnable games coming up. You got Steelers, you got the Texans. Giants is gonna be tough, but the Giants have, they're not impossible to beat, right? Giants would probably win that game, but you have 2 very winnable games. You have 2 winnable games. Steelers winnable, and the Texans is winnable. So you win those 2 games, you get to 6 wins. I think really what depends on what Jeff Saturday's future with the team is how you do in the games against the Cowboys, Vikings, Chargers, and Giants. Are you competitive in those games? If you can split those 2 games and go 8-1, they were competitive against Philly. That's kind of where you're at with Indy, though. But we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out. Washington over Houston, and the Saints over the lousy Rams. Rams fall to 3-7 on the year. Rams fans went from being on top of the world to falling off the side of the cliff. It's bad. It's bad. The Rams are terrible. So that was that. All right. Anyway, as for fantasy football, had a good week. I am going to win most likely in 3 of my 4 leagues tonight. Yeah, obviously, got the obvious plays like guys like Deebo Samuel, DeAndre Hopkins. Rondale Moore's a good play personally, in my opinion. I really like Rondale Moore a lot. Hopkins tonight is listed as questionable. He looks like he'll be available, though, according to Ian Rappaport, which could be a whole lot of things. Availability could mean, he's available. That's great. Who knows how much plays he gets. If DeAndre Hopkins is out, it raises the bar even more for Rondale Moore, who's gotten a ton of opportunities recently. He's gotten a ton of action, a guy that's had a really, really good season. So I'll definitely look at playing Rondale Moore. Marquise Brown looks like what? He's still on. It doesn't look like he's going to play. Marquise Brown probably won't play. So he's a guy though to look out for in the incoming days. It's not crazy. Look, I like Deebo Samuel a lot, but he hasn't put up the big numbers that we all expected him to put up this year. It's not crazy to say that if Deebo Samuel, you could start Rondale Moore over Deebo Samuel. It's not crazy to say that. It really isn't. I would probably start Deebo Samuel, but if you feel, it's not crazy to say that, it's not crazy to say that, you could start Rondale Moore over him. But I would definitely play DeAndre Hopkins. If you have Rondale Moore and DeAndre Hopkins, you have to, it's kind of a 50-50 risk you take. How much snaps is Hopkins going to play? Rondale Moore is going to be a big player, when you look into it and you look at the other guys, that are out there, you could possibly look at. If you're Elijah Mitchell, flex spot, Rondale Moore, Elijah Mitchell, I'd go Rondale Moore. I've been, liking a lot from what I've been seeing out of him. So, all right. Anyway, that will do it for the podcast here today. Niners, Cardinals tonight. Got to make my game pick. So to close things out here, obviously in Mexico, Niners are 5-4, Cardinals 4-6. A must-win for the Cardinals if they want to keep their season alive. And as for the Niners, they look to get a little bit more cushion as they are nearing the NFC playoff picture. This is a big game this is a big game for obviously the Cardinals. If you lose this game, you then got the Chargers coming up. Then it's a bye week. Patriots, Broncos, Bucks, Falcons, Niners are the rest of the games. So we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out there for the Cardinals. But Niners are a 10-point favorite. Over/under set at 43. 8:15 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. The Niners, 79% of people think the Niners will win. I'm going to jump on the 79% bandwagon. I'm going to take the Niners. And my final score is going to be, I'm going to take the Niners, and I'm going to take them 27-17. Niners win. They just cover the 10. I'll take the over on the over/under 43. Niners get the win and cover and pick up their 6th win of the season on Monday Night Football. That's my pick. So looking for my 7th win on the season for fantasy football. And, watch some football and see how that goes. So should be good tonight as well. Knicks are also on tonight. They're in Oklahoma City. Rangers got the night off. Islanders are up in Canada against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Devils are home to play the Oilers, as the Devils will look to extend their winning streak to 13 games. What a start to the year for a Devils team that has been really fun to watch, and that's coming from a Rangers fan. They've been fun to watch. They have been. So that will do it for another episode of the Bubbs on Sports podcast. As always, hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.